Daem anashin gichiban hapgichban janjuach shu li huanchin theo jung yeo kauthe the 100% cots you to tin McGann Cole Jason Reed Bella Thorne. Doi 33 ng data analyst brand consultant. Solu 8 months 9-15-16 missed calls. Injam cots thay joy. Xua such team stamp. Viet lai tieu jemoy. Them outer tieng anchuan. Chikiem tragiup emnha. Tio Jim my boyfriend's crazy. Ex warned me he settled for you. But when the police showed up, I realized she wasn't the crazy one. My name is Megan Cole, and I'm 33 years old. Up until a few days ago, if you'd asked me to describe my life, I would have said it was steady. Not thrilling, not tragic, just stable. I had a predictable job as a data analyst at a logistics firm, a carefully organized budget spreadsheet, color-coded by due dates, and a boyfriend who fit nicely into the version of adulthood I thought I was building toward. His name is Jason Reed. We'd been together for about 8 months, long enough for toothbrushes to live at each other's places, short enough that some drawers were still unofficial. We didn't live together, but we might as well have. Half my clothes were in his dresser, and his favorite hoodie lived permanently on the back of my dining chair. Jason worked as a brand consultant, the kind of guy who could turn a boring product launch into a story. He was funny good with people and had that easy social charm I secretly envied. On paper, we made sense. I was the logistics brain. He was the storyteller. Practical plus spontaneous Excel plus Canva. If you'd told me that almost everything I thought I knew about him was a script, I would have laughed. There was one thing, though, one recurring character in his stories that always made me a little uneasy. Her name was Bella Thorne, his ex-girlfriend. I don't remember when he first mentioned her. It was early, that's all I know. Maybe week 2, maybe week 3. We were at a bar, and he got a notification on his phone that made his jaw tighten for half a second. He flipped his screen over. When I raised an eyebrow, he sighed and said, "My ex again." He told me she was obsessed with him, that she kept accidentally running into him, messaging him from different accounts, popping up in his life like a bad ad you can't block. He called her persistent, then downgraded it to borderline stalker after a drink or two. I remember feeling a sympathetic twist in my chest for him. No one wants to be haunted by an ex, especially not an ex who won't let go. Every few weeks, she'd show up in conversation always as the villain in the story. Bella tried to DM me again. I blocked her, he'd say, dropping his phone on the table with a rehearsed exasperation. Or she followed me to the gym once. I had to switch locations. I'd frown, reach across the table, and squeeze his hand. "I'm sorry, that sounds exhausting." "I'm used to it," he'd answer. "She just can't accept we're done." He always said it like he was tired, like he was the reasonable one. I never questioned it. I should have. 2 nights ago, I got a DM that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. I was at my apartment sitting at the tiny dining table that doubled as my home office. One tab was my budgeting spreadsheet. Another was a list of vendors I needed to follow up with the next morning. I had a half-cold cup of tea by my hand and a candle burning down to its last quarter. Jason was on his way over. We'd planned an easy night. Take out some mindless streaming. The kind of evening that feels ordinary in a comforting way. My phone buzzed. At first I ignored it, finishing the line I was typing. When it buzzed again, I glanced down. A notification from Instagram. New message request from Bella Thornfit. The name made my stomach dip. I tapped it open before I could talk myself out of it. "He settled for you. He'll be back." That was it. No emoji, no greeting, just that. "He settled for you. He'll be back." For a second, my brain refused to process the words. Then heat flared under my skin, prickling all the way up my neck. I clicked on the profile out of reflex. Public account gym photos, mirror selfies, a couple of motivational quotes, a few pictures of brunch plates and cocktails that looked like they belonged in influencers' hands. It felt like being slapped by a stranger who knew my name. My first instinct wasn't even anger. It was humiliation. This woman I'd never met was telling me confidently that I was the consolation prize, the placeholder. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. By the time Jason knocked on my door, I had screenshotted it 3 times without knowing why. He came in with his usual easy energy, kissing my cheek as he held up a paper bag. "I brought that Thai place you like. Extra spring rolls because I'm a hero." Normally, I'd laugh. That night, the words slid right past me. "Jason," I said, my voice sounded thin. He froze when he saw my expression. "What's wrong?" I held out my phone. "Your ex messaged me." He took the phone, brow furrowing, then smoothing out as he read. A smirk tugged at his mouth. "Classic Bella," he said. I blinked. "That's your reaction. She's just trying to get in your head." He handed the phone back like it was nothing. "She does this with everyone I date." Everyone you date, I repeated. How many people has she said this to? He shrugged, heading to the kitchen to unpack the food. I don't know, 3, 4. She can't stand that I moved on. I stayed where I was. Jason, this isn't funny. This is messed up. This is harassment. She's dramatic, he said over his shoulder. If you ignore it, she usually gets bored and tries something else. I'm not ignoring it, I said. And why haven't you blocked her if she's this bad? He came back to the table setting down containers like we were just discussing the weather. I blocked her main account. She keeps making new ones. You'll drive yourself insane if you pay attention to it. That doesn't make it okay, I said. And it doesn't explain why she feels confident enough to tell me you settled for me. He sighed, finally really looking at me. Megan, she's trying to start drama. This is what she does. You can't let her win. She said he'll be back, I said quietly, like she knows you'll come running as soon as you get bored with me. He rolled his eyes. She knows how to push buttons, that's all. Does she, I asked, or does she just know you? Something flickered over his face, something almost fond before he could flatten it. We were together a long time, he said. Of course she knows me. Probably better than anyone if we're being honest. That hit me like a physical blow. Better than anyone, I repeated, including your current girlfriend. He snorted. Don't twist my words, Megan. I'm just saying we have history, real history. That doesn't mean I'm going back to her, but she thinks you are. I said, she thinks I'm temporary and you're standing here telling me she knows you best. Do you hear how that sounds? You're overreacting, he said. You're letting her get between us and that's exactly what she wants. No, I said, my voice steadying in a way that surprised me. What she wants is to feel superior. And right now, she kind of is, because you just basically confirmed what she said, that she knows you better than I do. I didn't say that, he snapped. You literally did. My hands were shaking, but I kept my tone quiet. And even if you didn't, you implied it. You said she knows you better than anyone, and I'm what a placeholder until she changes her mind. He grabbed his keys off the table. I don't have to listen to this. I'm not interested in being someone's consolation prize, I said. If Bella is the one you measure everyone against, go back to her. Excuse me. His eyes widened. You heard me. If she's the gold standard, if her opinion matters so much that you're brushing off this message like a joke, then maybe you're not over her. But I'm not going to stay in a relationship where your ex gets to set the tone. He stared at me for a long second, jaw clenched. You know what? He said finally. I don't need this drama. When you calm down, call me. He yanked the door open and left the sound of it slamming echoing through my apartment. I stood there in the sudden silence, the smell of takeout and lemongrass filling the room, my phone still warm in my hand. Part of me was furious. Another part was weirdly relieved. If he was that attached to his ex, better to know now. I put the untouched food in the fridge more out of habit than hunger and sat down on the couch. My fingers kept hovering over my phone like I was expecting him to apologize or at least send a half-hearted "you good" text. He didn't. An hour crawled by. At around 9:15, there was a knock at my door. For a heartbeat, I thought it was him. I pictured Jason on the other side, sheepish, ready to talk it through. Maybe admit he'd phrased things badly. I opened the door. 2 police officers stood in the hallway. Good evening, ma'am, the older one said. Are you Megan Cole? Yes, I said slowly, my pulse spiking. Is something wrong? We're looking for Jason Reed, she said. Is he here? Something in my chest went cold. No, I said he left about an hour ago. Why? What's going on? She pulled a small notebook from her pocket. Miss Cole, we need to serve Mr. Reed with a restraining order that was granted this afternoon. The complainant's name is Bella Thorne. The hallway tilted slightly under my feet. A restraining order, I repeated. Against Jason, yes, ma'am, she said. Miss Thorne provided documentation of sustained harassment over the past year. The younger officer glanced past me into my apartment, then back at me. Do you mind if we come in? The older one asked. We'd like to ask you a few questions. I stepped back without thinking, letting them inside, as the words sustained harassment echoed in my head, louder than any argument I'd had with Jason, louder than that smug little smirk when he read the DM. For the first time since I'd met him, I realized I might not know who I'd let into my life at all. The officer sat on my couch like they'd done this 1,000 times before. The older one introduced herself as Officer Lopez, the younger as Officer Miller. They both looked calm, practiced, as if nothing I was about to hear would surprise them. Everything surprised me. Just to confirm, Officer Lopez said, flipping open her notebook, You and Mr. Reed are in a romantic relationship. I I said the past tense, stuck in my throat. We had a fight. He left earlier. How long have you been together? She asked. 8 months, I said. She nodded, jotting that down. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the situation and then I'll have some questions. If anything feels overwhelming, let us know. Overwhelming, I felt like my bones had turned hollow. Earlier today, she continued a judge granted a temporary restraining order against Mr. Reed on behalf of his ex-girlfriend, Ms. Bella Thorne. Ms. Thorne presented documentation of sustained harassment over approximately the last 12 months. Harassment I forced out from Jason. That doesn't make sense. He told me she was stalking him. The officers exchanged a small, controlled glance that made my stomach twist. According to Ms. Thorne, Officer Lopez said she ended the relationship with Mr. Reed and requested no further contact. Since that time, she reports that Mr. Reed has sent her hundreds of messages, called her repeatedly, followed her to various locations, and created multiple social media accounts to contact her after being blocked. My heart started pounding in my ears. I know, I said. He told me she wouldn't leave him alone, that she kept making new accounts to harass him. He said she was obsessed. Officer Miller was making notes quietly, his pen scratching softly against the paper. That is not consistent with the documentation Ms. Thorne provided, Lopez said gently. Of course, we're not asking you to resolve that conflict. We're just informing you of what's been presented to the court. What kind of documentation, I asked. The word tasted clinical, like something that belonged in my job, not my living room. She submitted phone records, Lopez said, screenshots of text messages initiated by Mr. Reed, call logs, voicemail recordings, social media messages, and records of him appearing at her workplace and residence uninvited. There are also statements from co-workers and neighbors corroborating some of those incidents. I stared at a spot on the wall just above her shoulder. Like if I looked directly at her, I'd fall apart. That no, I whispered. Jason said she followed him to the gym, that she showed up where he was, that she made fake emergencies to get his attention. Did you ever personally witness any of that? Lopez asked. I thought back. The way he'd always told the stories, animated, detailed, punctuated with those little self-deprecating jokes about having a type. No, I said slowly. I only heard it from him. She nodded again and wrote something down. Did Mr. Reed ever show you messages from Ms. Thorne directly? She asked. Texts, DMs, anything like that? I hesitated. He showed me a few screenshots early on, I said. Messages that looked like her begging him to talk to her, but I never saw the full conversations. Just pieces. Pieces he controlled. Pieces he chose. Lopez leaned forward a little. Ms. Cole, I'd like to ask something specific. In the last few weeks, have you received any messages directly from accounts claiming to be Ms. Thorne? The question landed like a stone dropping into a well. My phone was still on the coffee table where I'd left it. The screen was dark. For a moment, I just stared at it, my heart racing. Yes, I said. Tonight, right before Jason came over. What kind of message, she asked. I swallowed. A DM on Instagram from an account with her name. It said he settled for you. He'll be back. Officer Miller stopped writing. May I see that message? Lopez asked. My hand shook as I picked up my phone and opened Instagram. The notification was still there. I pulled up the DM thread and handed the phone to her. She read the message silently. Her expression didn't change much, but something about the way her eyes narrowed made my skin prickle. Do you mind if I click through to the profile? She asked. Go ahead, I said. She tapped, then frowned slightly. Could you tell me the account handle aloud, please? I leaned over. It's Bella Thorne Fit. I said, then blinked. Wait, that's weird. The L looks strange. Officer Miller leaned in too. Can I see? He asked. Lopez angled the phone toward him. Ms. Cole, she said, I want you to look very carefully at the username, specifically at the letters toward the end. I stared. The handle wasn't Bella Thorne like I'd thought. The L in Bella was actually a capital I. I didn't notice. I said, I saw her name. I saw the photos. I just assumed Ms. Thorne's real account handle is different. Lopez said she provided it to us with her documentation. It does not use that spelling. The room felt suddenly smaller. So this isn't her, I asked. Lopez shook her head. Based on what we know, this appears to be a fake account designed to look like hers. Ms. Thorne reports that Mr. Reed has created multiple accounts impersonating her to contact his new partners or mutual acquaintances. In some cases, the accounts were used to send harassing messages that could later be presented as evidence that she was the aggressor. The words hit like punches. Are you saying Jason pretended to be her? My voice came out thin. We can't definitively state that at this moment, Lopez said carefully. But given the pattern Ms. Thorne has documented and the timing of this message in relation to the restraining order being issued today, it is a strong possibility that Mr. Reed or someone acting on his behalf created this account. I sat back like I'd been shoved. He settled for you. He'll be back. I heard his voice in that sentence now, not hers. The smugness, the deliberate cruelty, the way it lined up perfectly with the narrative he wanted me to believe. How long has this been going on? I whispered. According to Ms. Thorne, Lopez said the behavior started shortly after their breakup and escalated over time. She reports that he has a pattern of telling new girlfriends that she's stalking him while simultaneously contacting her repeatedly and manipulating how others see her. I pressed my fingertips into my knees to keep them from shaking. He told me she was showing up everywhere I said. He told me she made burner accounts to message him that she was obsessed, that he was just trying to move on. He said she DM'd me tonight because she can't stand that he's happy with someone else. Miller's pen scratched softly as he wrote that down. Ms. Cole Lopez said, her tone softer. People who engage in this kind of behavior can be very convincing. They often control the story. It's not unusual for their partners to believe them. Shame burned in my chest anyway. I thought about every time I'd nodded along while he called her crazy. Every time I'd comforted him, told him he didn't deserve to be stalked. Every time I'd thought privately that he must be pretty special to inspire that kind of obsession. What happens now? I asked. We need to locate Mr. Reed to serve him with the restraining order, Lopez said. Once he's served, he'll be legally prohibited from contacting Ms. Thorne directly or indirectly, or from coming within a certain distance of her home and workplace. Indirectly, I repeated. That includes asking other people to reach out for him, attempting to provoke contact through third parties, or creating fake profiles to circumvent blocks, she said. The words indirectly and fake profiles echoed in my head, colliding with the DM on my screen. Has he ever asked you to confront Miss Thorne? She asked, or to contact her on his behalf. No, I said, then paused. He did say once that if she kept bothering him, he might need me to back him up if he went to the police. He joked that I'd be a star witness. I thought he was just venting. Lopez wrote that down. Do you know where he might be now? She asked. I pictured his apartment, the faded brick building a few neighborhoods over the coffee shop he liked, the gym he claimed she'd chased him to. All the places that suddenly felt like sets he'd been staging scenes on. He's probably at his place, I said quietly. I can give you the address. I did. They wrote it down, thanked me, and handed me a card with a case number and a phone number. If Mr. Reed contacts you, Lopez said, standing, especially if he attempts to involve you in any communication with Ms. Thorne, please call this number. Do not agree to act as a messenger. That could be a violation of the order. I nodded numb. Okay. They walked to the door. Lopez paused with her hand on the knob. I know this is a lot, she said. If you need support, there are victim services listed on the back of that card. Even if you weren't the direct complainant, what you're experiencing is real. It's valid. Real. Valid. The door closed behind them. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. Silence settled over my apartment like dust. I sank onto the couch and stared at my phone on the table. The DM was still open. The fake Bella account. The lie I'd almost swallowed whole. He settled for you. He'll be back. I clicked to the profile again, staring at the handle. Be a Thorne fit. That tiny, deliberate difference, a detail, a version, a timestamp in a system that suddenly looked completely different when you zoomed out. I backed out of the DM, out of the profile, and opened the search bar. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long moment. Then I typed in the real name, Bella Thorne. If Jason had written a script, I was done letting him direct it. I found her real account in seconds. A verified checkmark, a clean handle with no extra numbers, no suspicious underscores, no odd capitalization, professional headshot photos with friends, gym selfies like the fake account, but actually hers this time. Her posts went back years. Nothing about it looked manufactured. My chest tightened. This was the woman Jason had called obsessed dangerous, unable to move on. She looked normal, more than normal. She looked tired in some pictures, happy with friends, and others perfectly human in all of them. I hovered over the message button. I had no idea what I'd say. No idea if she'd respond. No idea how to even start untangling the last few months of my life from the story Jason had been spinning. Then my phone buzzed. A call. Jason. His name lit up the screen. And for the first time since I'd met him, I felt nothing warm, just a sudden instinctive urge to put distance between myself and the device in my hand. I let it ring. It rang again and again, 3 calls in under 2 minutes. I put the phone face down. The 4th call started. I finally flipped it over and hit ignore. A voicemail notification appeared immediately, then another. I didn't listen. Instead, I opened Bella's profile again, took a breath, and typed, "Hi Bella, I'm really sorry to bother you, but I think I've been lied to. About everything. Police were just here. I don't know where to start." My thumb trembled over the send button, and then I tapped it. The message went out into the dark. I didn't expect her to respond quickly, if at all. Why should she? I was in her eyes just another woman Jason had pulled into the gravity of his personal planet. I set the phone down on the couch cushion beside me, then immediately picked it back up, then set it down again. I couldn't sit still. My heartbeat kept rising into my throat. My fingers twitched. My eyes moved to the front door every few seconds as if expecting someone to walk through it. Then my phone buzzed. A message from her. "Is this really Megan?" "The police just told me they spoke with you." I exhaled shakily and typed, "Yes, they came to my apartment looking for Jason. They told me about the restraining order, about the documentation. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He told me you were stalking him." Her reply came fast. "I know. He tells everyone that." I pressed a hand over my mouth. Another message appeared. "I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I'm sorry anyone has to deal with him." Honestly, I hesitated. "Can you tell me what's really been happening? Please. I don't know what to believe." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then returned. I could almost picture her deciding how much of her life to hand over to a stranger. "Finally, I'll show you. Hold on." A moment later, my screen filled with images, screenshots, dozens of them, text messages from numbers that matched Jason's contact information, messages begging her to talk, apologies that turned into anger, that turned into pleading, that turned into accusations, whole paragraphs, walls of text, then photos, timestamp showing him parked outside her building, messages he'd sent from unknown numbers after she blocked him, notifications from accounts with usernames, 1 letter off from her own, just like the one he'd used on me. She sent everything in long batches. My phone vibrated nonstop. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. The volume alone was horrifying, but it wasn't the amount that cracked something open inside me. It was the familiarity, the cadence. Jason's voice disguised as someone else. I knew the patterns, the turns of phrase, the dramatic timing, even the self-pity was identical. This was his script, one he'd apparently performed more than once. What about the messages he showed me? I typed, hands trembling. The ones he said you sent him. Her reply was short, almost all fake. He sent them to himself from burner accounts. He tried the same thing with the girlfriend before you. I felt nauseous. Of course he had. Of course he'd used the same playbook with someone else. Of course the story had felt so polished. It was rehearsed. My phone buzzed again. Jason. Another call. I declined it. A voicemail appeared immediately. Another message from Bella came through. "If he tries to contact you, please don't respond. That can be him trying to create indirect contact with me, which violates the restraining order. Just document it and let the police know. Indirect contact." The officers had warned me about that. Don't agree to act as a messenger. I thought the phrase was oddly specific. Now it made terrifying sense. "I'm so sorry," I typed. "You didn't deserve any of this. I almost believed everything he told me." I believed him too once she wrote back. "That's how he works." Another batch of screenshots came in. This time, the actual restraining order. Page after page, dates, time-specific incidents, messages I'd never seen, comments about being followed, accounts he'd created, witness statements. My breath kept catching as I read. More than once, I had to look away. At the end of the last batch came a final text. "It's good you know the truth now. It's better to learn in 8 months than in 2 years." I closed my eyes. Let the weight of those words settle. My phone buzzed again. Jason again. Then a voicemail notification. Then a text. "Megan, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. Call me back, please." I blocked his number. Then I opened Instagram and checked the fake account again. User not found. He deleted it. Of course he had. I set the phone down slowly, carefully, as if it were something fragile that might explode. Then I leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. Every story he'd told me, every sympathetic nod I'd given him. Every time I'd thought Bella was the unstable one. Every time I'd been grateful I wasn't her. Blind loyalty didn't feel noble anymore. It felt like a trap I'd walked into willingly because the person holding the door open had smiled convincingly enough. A knock sounded at my door. My heart stopped. For a full second, I couldn't move. Then very slowly, I stood up and walked to the peephole. Jason standing in the hallway. Looking up at my door, I stepped back involuntarily. My phone buzzed on the couch. A new message from him lit up the screen. "I know you're in there. We need to talk. Just open the door." He knocked again, then again, harder this time. I didn't breathe. The peephole distorted his face, but I recognized the shift in his expression, the irritation, the impatience beneath the pleasant mask. He knocked once more. "Megan," he said, voice muffled through the door. "Come on, don't make this weird." I took another step back, then another. And for the first time since this nightmare had begun, I felt fully, viscerally afraid. His tone changed on the next knock, not softer, sharper. Megan Jason called through the door. "I know you talked to the police." The breath froze in my lungs. He shouldn't have known that. He couldn't have known that unless... No. I shoved the thought away. He knocked again, harder. The kind of knock meant to intimidate, meant to remind you who used to walk through your door without asking. "Open up. We can clear this up," he said, the edge in his voice barely contained. "You're listening to people who don't know the full story." I backed into my living room, heart thudding. He knocked again, 3 rapid, angry bursts. "You owe me a conversation," he snapped. "I owe you nothing," I said under my breath, even though he couldn't hear it. My phone buzzed from where I'd left it on the couch. Another message from him. "I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I felt cold all over. My fingers hovered over my phone as I picked it up. I typed, "If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." His reply came instantly, like he'd been waiting with the message half-typed. "Why would you do that? I haven't done anything. You're being dramatic. Just open the door." Then another, "You're letting Bella manipulate you. This is what she does. She ruins everything." Then, "If you loved me at all, you'd hear me out." The sudden emotional pivot anger to guilt to pleading was so textbook, I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I hit block. The messages disappeared. The chat grayed out. He knocked louder. "Megan," he barked, the sweetness gone entirely. "You think blocking me is going to fix this? You're smarter than that." My pulse hammered in my ears. I backed away until I reached the kitchen counter. My hands trembled as I palmed my phone, ready to call the number the officers had given me. Another knock, this one loud enough to rattle the frame. "Open the door." "No." I whispered to the empty air. I raised the phone thumb, hovering over the call button, and then silence. Total, sudden silence. No footsteps, no more knocking, no voice, nothing. Seconds stretched into nearly a minute, then 2, then 3. I forced myself to check the peephole. Jason was gone. The hallway was empty. I sagged against the door, the adrenaline making my legs shaky. My apartment felt too quiet, too, like the air itself was bracing for something else to go wrong. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak, every hum of the fridge, every car passing outside made my heart jump. I checked the locks 3 times. I considered dragging a chair in front of the door. I sat on the couch with every light on until sunrise. By mid-morning, there were 16 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and a handful of texts from unknown numbers I didn't recognize, but knew deep in my gut were him. I didn't open any of them. I forwarded the numbers to the officer's contact card like they'd told me to. They responded within minutes. "Thank you. Document everything. We will add it to the case file. Please let us know immediately if he appears at your residence again." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Hours passed. I paced. Checked again that he wasn't outside. Then again, around noon, a message pinged from Bella. "Are you okay?" I hesitated before typing. "He came to my apartment last night." I didn't answer. He was angry. He knocked for a long time. Did he leave? Yes, eventually. But he's been calling from different numbers. That's part of the pattern. He does this when he feels control slipping. Control. The words slid through me like ice. "Has he ever gotten violent?" I typed, afraid to see the answer. Her pause was long. Not with me. But he escalates when cornered. That's why I finally filed. "You did the right thing not opening the door." I swallowed hard. I feel stupid for believing his version of everything. Another pause. "Don't." He's very good at lying in a way that feels like honesty. My throat tightened. My phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't Jason. It was Officer Lopez. Update: Mr. Reed was located and served the restraining order this morning. If he contacts you again, even indirectly, please notify us. I sagged onto the couch, weak with relief. Served. Official. Bound by law now. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt like I could breathe, but relief didn't mean the fear evaporated. That night, I slept with the lights on again. The next day, another message arrived, this time from Bella. He violated the restraining order today, showed up outside my work. The security cameras caught him. A chill rippled through me. Even after being served, even after the police, the warnings, the paperwork, he still couldn't stop. Hours later, she messaged again. He tried to contact me through a mutual friend, too. That's violation number 2. I stared at the screen. What happens now? I asked. His lawyer will get notified. The prosecutor will review the violations. There may be charges. This is how it usually goes. Usually. The word hit too hard. That evening, while I was reheating leftovers, I couldn't taste my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Not him this time. A different number entirely. I let it ring, expecting it to go to voicemail, but the call didn't end. It rang and rang and rang. When I finally answered cautiously, a woman's voice spoke. Miss Cole. This is Assistant District Attorney Sarah Vance. I'm calling regarding the restraining order involving Jason Reed. My legs went weak enough that I had to sit down. We have documentation indicating you received a message from a fake account created to impersonate the complainant, she said. We believe your experience may be part of a larger pattern and may be relevant to the case. My mouth had gone dry. Are you asking me to testify I managed? Potentially. She said, at minimum, we'd like to take an official statement. My eyes closed. In my mind, I saw every time I'd defended him. Every time I'd told myself his ex was dramatic. Every time I'd heard a story that didn't quite add up but forced myself to accept. And every time he'd smiled, relieved that I did, I swallowed. I'll cooperate, I said quietly. I want to help. Thank you, the ADA replied. I'll send over times we can schedule your statement. When the call ended, I sat in the dim kitchen staring at nothing. 8 months ago, I'd met a charming man at a friend's gathering. We'd laughed, we'd flirted, we'd made plans. 8 months ago, I thought I'd found something promising. I hadn't realized I'd stepped into someone else's ongoing nightmare. I hadn't realized how close I'd come to becoming the next version of Bella. Isolated, undermined, blamed, used as a prop in a story where he was always the victim. I hadn't realized how lucky I was to escape before I became a footnote in a restraining order, too. Over the next 3 weeks, things escalated fast. Jason violated the restraining order again, this time by having a friend call Bella under the pretense of checking in. That violation made 3 and 8 days. The prosecutor's office filed charges harassment, stalking, violation of a protection order. Bella kept me updated not because she had to. She didn't owe me anything, but because we were both in different stages, survivors of the same pattern, and weirdly, painfully that bonded us. We weren't friends, but we understood parts of each other no one else could. One afternoon, I got another message from her. He's facing trial. They may contact you to appear as a witness. My stomach nodded. Okay, just let me know, she added. I'm sorry you got dragged into this, but I'm glad you got out quickly. I typed me too. Then deleted the second part I'd wanted to add. I'm sorry I ever believed his version of you. 2 months passed. Jason was charged formally. He tried to reach out through another fake account, and I forwarded it to the officers immediately. They added it to his file. I started therapy. My idea, not because anyone told me to. I had to untangle trusted the wrong person so completely. Why his crazy ex-narrative slid down so easily. Why my instincts had quieted themselves for him. My therapist told me something that stuck. People like Jason are persuasive because they weaponize vulnerability. They present themselves as wounded so you won't notice the harm they're inflicting. It made ugly, perfect sense. At work, I functioned. At home, I healed slowly. I went for walks, started cooking again, cleaned my apartment thoroughly, part instinct, part cleansing ritual. Eventually, I re-downloaded a dating app. Not because I was ready, but because I was no longer afraid. I matched with someone new last week. We're talking slowly, carefully, like people walking across a bridge they built themselves. Bella is in a new relationship too. Private, cautious, but from what she's told me, healthy. Jason still doesn't know she's seeing someone else, and that's exactly how she wants it. The friend who introduced me to Jason apologized more than once. She said she never knew the full story, that Jason always framed everything as crazy ex-girlfriend drama, and she believed him because he said it with conviction. I understand that now. Conviction isn't truth. Volume isn't honesty. Consistency isn't innocence. I learned something else too. Sometimes the person who screams the loudest about being chased is the one doing the chasing. Sometimes the person insisting they're the victim is writing the script for everyone else. And sometimes the crazy ex isn't crazy at all, just someone trying to escape a story they never agreed to be in. Jason almost trapped me in that story. Almost. But the truth came out lit up by screenshots and timestamps and police reports, because eventually lies collapse under their own weight, and I stepped out of his narrative before he could write the ending for me. Maybe this story touched something inside you, a moment you lived, a feeling you once carried. If it did, share your thoughts or your own experience in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from so I can create more stories just for you.